Okay. Planning to contribute, want to begin to contribute. Never contribute, but has been eager to. Completely new to open source model to learn about it, contribute. Okay, so pretty much most of you are in the beginners. I can understand that, and we all want to do it. And how many of you know Python? Not that it's necessary for this, but it makes the path a bit easier. Anybody who has no clue, never seen a Python code before? Okay. Okay, we have 33 people right now. We haven't started anything yet, but we're just seeing where each one of you stand. Okay. Okay. Most of you know Python, have seen Python. We are not going to do a Python session here, but just we will see some basic code where I contributed to pandas. So that's the only reason. So are you all excited to learn something today? Shall we start? Yeah. Okay. You're all super awake on a Saturday morning. Let's jump right in. Okay, so that's me, Bhavani Ravi. If you want to contact me on Twitter, that's my handle, geeky_Bhavani. And okay, to give a quick overview of what I am, what I am working as a research engineer at Sama Technologies. When I say research, it's not the academic research part of it. Primarily bringing all the machine learning models to production. I'm a backend engineer, and we have research engineers who build machine learning projects, and I take it as a product to the end users. And I've contributed to open source packages like Pandas and Rasa NLU, and that's the reason why I'm talking here. And I write a lot of blogs at bhavaniravi.com. You can check them out. And I run this community called Women Tech Makers Chennai. You can check them out as well. It's a community by Google. So we are supposed to talk about open source, not about me, right? So open source. Like most of you said, I also wanted to start contributing to open source. And anytime, anything that you want to learn, anytime you want to learn a new topic or something new, what would you do? You're going to be interacting with me in the chat throughout. So anytime you want to learn something new, you will Google it, right? Google it, yes. So I did the same thing. I went to Google, and the next slide I'm going to show you how I Googled it. Okay. So the two images are 6 months apart. The first image has about 1 billion results, and the second image has about 2 billion results. So the two images are taken, like one is taken 6 months back, the second one is taken yesterday. And Google is very proud of giving us so many results, right? And you have so much, and what one would do is, go through each one of those links about first page, all of it, 10 of them. And at the end of it, what you would actually feel is, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'm not ready yet. Something of that sort. So this kind of kills the motivation in itself. So Google was not working, and next reasonable thing to do, next clever thing to do is to go around and ask a lot of people. And I've asked a lot of people about, how to go about contributing to open source. And people said me good and bad things. First, let's rule out all the bad things, and then we'll go ahead and see how to do the good things. So, bad things. What people actually told me was, you have to be an awesome programmer. You're just a beginner. Don't you think you have to be an expert to contribute to open source? Second thing, uh, why do you have to contribute to something that's already there? Why not create your own open source project? Haha, like that's gonna happen, right? And then open source is a scary world. There are so many people who's there to get you. Why do you want to even go there? Fourth one is, you have to be experienced. You're just a beginner. And then fifth one is all over Quora. So Quora is this questioning, answering medium. It talks about whether how you should be a Linux expert to contribute to open source. And trust me, none of these are true. like you don't have to be an awesome programmer. You don't have to own your open source project. And owning your own open source project is 10 times difficult than contributing to something there out there. And open source is not a scary world because people are so warm and helpful there. And you don't have to be experienced. You need to know little things. And Linux is not a requirement anymore. You can pretty much do it in Windows, Ubuntu, Mac OS. You just have to have the motivation. But there are some things that these people told me, and those came out to be a big help. And that we'll see in the next slide. What's actually true is you need to have an understanding of one programming language at least. And how would you know whether you are good at any programming language is to read other people's code, who you have no clue about. So take any code online, be it JavaScript, be it Python, be it Golang, take any other people's code, go through it. If you can understand it, then you are pretty much there. You know the programming language. And second thing, open source, it's all about Git. So without Git, you can't do it. So you have to know how to pull a project, clone a project, make changes to it, push to it, and all that. And having a little bit of handle on how to use a terminal will come of great help. And there, in every open source project, there is something called as contributor guidelines. This is there to make life easy for other contributors. This is created by the code developers and then given for the entire community. So this is like your guidebook. Keep it with you all the time, because uh, a lot of the instructions that's there, if you follow that perfectly, your path to open source is going to be so easy. And I'm not going to paint a rosy picture to you. It takes an insane amount of effort and patience and time. It is difficult. It's not easy. For example, my one piece of code took me 7 months to merge it, and it's just four files, one documentation, one testing, and two files, and it took 7 months. So I'm not going to paint the rosy picture. It is difficult. It lot of effort, but it's totally worth it. I'll tell you why in a bit. So I am not an expert in open source as well. I have done a couple of contributions, and then I've written a couple of blogs on this. So the best time to teach anything is when you're actually in the process of learning it and doing it. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm giving this talk. And what are we learning today is why should you even care about open source? And then how I made my first contribution. I'm not going to walk you through the journey. I'm just going to give you my framework of how I contributed, how I made my first contribution, right? And why why do you want to contribute to open source in the first place? I have my whys, but why do you have to contribute? You can answer in the chat. Okay. Because in quarantine period, there are no availability of internships. True that, you can get internships out of, okay, you couldn't do internships, so open source might be a good level. Industry level coding experience, be involved in building technology. Yes, absolutely. Be involved in building technology, like building APIs, learning techniques. Did you all already steal my slide or something? Because that's exactly what I'm going to cover next. So I just have 4 points. So when I was in college, my seniors often tell me this, people ask, you want a job, but the job asks for experience. And then to have an experience, you have to have the job. But unfortunately, it's not true, because with open source, you can get a lot of experience, industry experience. So this is no longer true. Have some exposure, obviously, right? And you can break the cycle if you're going to contribute to open source. So the next thing is credibility. Imagine working on a project which is used by just hundreds of people in your company. This is something like Pandas, which is used by most Python developers. So that has a lot of credibility. To have your single piece of code contributed, like incorporated into such a big platform, it builds your credibility. It adds up in your resume. For example, my current job, my only interview was to walk in, show my code in Pandas, and then grab my offer letter. That was pretty much it. There was no whiteboarding, there was no complex algorithmic interview, nothing of that sort. Now that we are all quarantined, if you have never had remote working experience, uh, open source would always give you that. But now there are no barriers at all. So you can pretty much, most of this open source contribution doesn't even involve a Zoom call. Most of the conversations happen over a GitHub issue. That's pretty much it. I'll show you my GitHub issue in a bit. But I learned a lot on how to work across different time zones. And also, you can't control which time zone people belong to. So everybody works asynchronously and produces beautiful code. And industry best practices, because there is a lot of credibility involved, because this is being used by a lot of people, they have to ensure that everything that goes into the project is of high quality and well tested. So you cannot learn industry practices so well anywhere except the open source world, because it involves so many people. And if without open source, or without any of this open source or free software movement, we would not be having any of this conversation, because to learn Python, you might have to go and pay someone. So open source has given us so much, and it's time for us to give back to the community. And there is no better feeling in the world than giving back to the community. So I think I've told you whys of open source. Now I'll tell you how I did it. My open source story. It's not going to be a story as such, it's going to be my framework. And I'll tell you, it all started when I was building this product called KissFlow, which is for my previous company. And this one module is basically a data analytics module, where we'll have data from the other apps, and it has to be displayed in a complex structure like this, exactly like the one you see on the right side. And it has filters, advanced pivots, heat maps, and all of those sort. Anytime you talk about data analytics, you always use in Python pandas. So what we had to do was we had to take pandas and see if it fits our requirements. So on that journey, so one of the requirements that we had was, given a report like this, can we export it into CSV? Okay, so now if you look at this, this is not a very flat table. It is grouped by country, and then by the region, and then by the year, and then by the person. So it's like 4 nested loops: country, region, year, and the person. So it's no longer a flattened dictionary in the Python world. So the problem that we had at hand was to flatten the Python dictionaries. Very simple. And we were looking at, so the problem looked, in code sense, it looks something like this. Let's say your input data is bio and profile image, and I want my output to look something like this. I want to flatten bio alone and not the profile image, because this together gives me an information, but I can split it without losing any information. So this is pretty much what we wanted to achieve using pandas. And start as a user. When looking at pandas, whether it supported any of this feature, actually there was a function called JSON normalize, which did this for us. So on digging further, JSON normalize, what it supported at that point was it flattens everything. So given this as an input data, you pass it to JSON normalize, and what it did was flatten everything without any further clue. But I wanted something better. This is the point where you find a lot of mistakes. And human beings are very good at finding mistakes, finding anomalies. At some point, you have to say, I am good enough to find mistakes, and be the critic, find faults, and also propose solutions. So my question was, why not have something where you can specifically mention which keys you should avoid flattening? So so then you have to propose solutions. You should not just raise issues, you should also propose some solutions. So my solution looked, so this was me raising the issue. ignore flattening certain keys in JSON normalize, my proposal looks something like this. So if this is my input data, I want to write a JSON normalize function, which would ignore certain keys. For example, profile.image. And this ignore keys was not there. I'm proposing it for the first time. And once I have this code in, what the behavior would be something like this. This is exactly how my proposal looked. So I'll just switch the screens and show you that for a moment. Issues and Bhavani, ignore certain keys. So this is how my proposal looked. So current output is this. Problem is I don't want to flatten a particular key, and that is pretty much it. Okay, so my proposed solution looks something like this. And next comes the hard part. You have to fix them. And fixing this is not actually so difficult because I have already done my homework and I know how it want to behave, and it's written in Python. So fixing them was cloning the project, editing the file, creating a new pull request, and forking it. And this, trust me, took me only one weekend, just 2 days, couple of hours, and I was done with this workflow. So you clone the project from the GitHub, edit whatever file you want, create a pull request, and then fork it, clone it, edit it, and then create the pull request, right? So this took me 2 days max. But the next step is the most difficult in any open source project, where people go and check what you have done and give you comments. And I'm not kidding, this process alone took 6 months on and off. So I was not doing it for 6 months continuously. I had work, so I find a balance. So I did it for 3 months and then took a 2 month break and did it for other 3 months. So about 6 to 7 months, this whole process took place. And I'll show you this as well. Um, pull request, author Bhavani, and then closed. Okay. Okay. So if you look at this, there are about 77 conversations and then 51 commits, and it has to go through 12-step checking process. And then number of files changed are nothing but 5. One of those is documentation, one of those is test. And then, so couple of 3 documentation files and then 1 actual code and 1 test. That's pretty much it, but it took me 6 months. So this is going to be a bit of a frustrating part, but once you get through it, there is like a lot of comments that people gave me that changed my coding way completely. So even the slightest thing as, leaving a space will come as a greatest burden. So once you get through this part, the next part is very easy. It's merged. So once they merge your code, that's the best feeling in the world. Your code is officially into the uh, repository and it's going to get used by so many people, and the Eureka moment, right? Finally, the framework that I was talking about is pick a problem, right? That could be some problem that you're having in your workplace or having in your personal projects, any technology that you're using, and start as a user. Just start using it and try to build any application, see if the technology fits the application, and be the critic. Don't pull yourself down. You can find faults in pretty much anything. I'll show you. There is a bit of a mismatch in Python. Like there is a bug in Python, but people don't necessarily call it a bug, that I found yesterday. And you can raise issues and you can propose to fix them. Once you fix them, it's all nice and rosy. It's your Eureka moment. And with that, we are done with the framework. And if you say like, I'm not so good at code, but how else can I contribute to open source? Is it just code? I'm just a beginner. Is there any other way to enter this open source world? Then I would have to give you a lot of other things. Open source is not just about code. It's about reading other people's code, asking questions on top of it, And if you find any issues, you don't have to necessarily fix it. Just raising that issue will come of great help. And answering other people's questions in any online forums for an open source project comes in with great effort. And writing blog post on top of that, subscribing yourself to, test certain things would come of great help. Contributing to the documentation, all of this counts as open source contribution. You don't necessarily have to be a programmer or contribute only via code. And this is how I contributed to Rasa. Primarily, what I did was I wrote a lot of blog posts. So I took Rasa NLU's code, read through it, and I wrote a blog series on that. I never pushed one piece of code into Rasa, but this particular blog series was recognized by Rasa and was claimed as the superhero contribution. So it counts. And if you say you have no time, I totally understand. Not a lot of people have time, but if you use GitHub as your Instagram, it would push you a bit closer to the open source world. I'm not saying drop Instagram and go to GitHub. What I'm saying is, uh, you know, use GitHub as another medium for interaction with people. You can go through pull requests, go to other people's project and read their code. So you can do a bunch of things with that. And ready to contribute? I hope I've sold you enough. You can follow the project and give comments. I don't know for what, but are you ready to contribute? Yes. Do you feel confident? That's the best way to start. Thank you. Okay. So this presentation was created around October. So Hacktoberfest was going on and I was promoting that all everywhere. And it doesn't have to be an Hacktoberfest for you to contribute to open source. The timing is always right. So I'm going to next show you a couple of things I have found over the period of time. And we'll see how that goes. Okay. So these are literally some of those things I'm using every day and I find faults in them. First, I'm going to show you the dev.to community, the dev.to platform. This is an open source project, but it's being used widely by so many people. So when I was at dev.to and I go to my profile page and I couldn't find my YouTube here, right? And so I went to edit profile and I was looking for YouTube. Unfortunately, there is no YouTube here. So there's Behance, Dribble, Medium, GitLab. There is no YouTube. So what I wanted to do was, first find the problem, be the critic, and then raise an issue. So I went here and I looked for, whether YouTube has a link. I didn't open this. Somebody has already opened it. So I just gave a thumbs up and walked off because it was already there. And someone else was proposing to, fix this. So my job is done there. So you can do that. And then I use this other thing called Tomato Timer. This is like a Pomodoro timer. And it is an open source project again. So if you go to stats, it will give me only the number of Pomodoros I've taken. Pomodoros is where you set like 25-minute work and then 5-minute break and then another 25-minute work. So it gives me number of chunks I have worked focusedly. So instead of this, I want the number of hours or number of minutes I have worked. So that feature was not supported. Again, you can go propose raise the issue and expect someone else to fix it. Or you can, if you have time, you can propose that you have a solution. I haven't looked through the code of this, so I don't have a solution yet. Once I have it, I'll propose the solution and maybe create a pull request, right? And then the third one I'm going to show you is in Python itself. So this is something I was trying yesterday. So my project I am working on currently is called the Search Assistant. And there is a video on that as well. It's a very simple app where you search a particular term in Google and then open that in a web browser. Okay, you can search like DevOps and it will give you 10 DevOps links and you have to open all of them in a browser. This is a very simple project. I'll show you how that works. So in Python there is something called as web browser, and once you say web browser dot open of https://bhavani.com, it has to open that in a browser. So currently it opens it in a new window, right? And then there is a function called as open new tab. And what you would want this function to do is, open it in a new tab and not a new window. But unfortunately, it again opens in a new window. Now, this looks like a bug, but what actually is happening is, if I go to preferences, here it says, when you open a new link, open a link in a new tab, open links in the tab instead of new windows. So this is not checked. So it's opening everything in a new window. So once I check this and close all of this, now I have like one terminal, one Firefox, and then one presentation. Now I'll go back here and open this. Now it will open it in the current browser itself again. Now if I do open, right, it's in spite of open and open new tab, it's still opening it in the new tab. So this is kind of a weird behavior for the Python code. So on digging further, there is already an issue which was created in 2007. So each call to browser.open creates a new tab. So that is because it's taking the system configuration of Firefox, and I think Python should work independently. So this is already opened and closed. So I can go ahead and reopen this and have a discussion on top of this. So these are the ways I think about open source and how to go about contributing to them. And if you have specific questions, with this, my presentation comes to an end. And if you have specific questions for what you have covered so far, I would love to answer that. Okay, we have our first question. How to earn from open source? Okay, one thing you could do is, I am not earning from open source, so I'm not being the right person. But one thing you could do is, start out at free, and once you have created a repo, once you have shown enough value, you can ask good projects to sponsor you initially. So you get paid very little, obviously, because it's all sponsored and it's not so much backed by the company. So you can start out as a contributor free, and then you can create a rapport with these people, and then you can pandas and all, they provide you sponsorship for you to do a project for 6 months or so. But there are open source projects that are backed by the companies. Like Rasa has a enterprise version, and there is a open source project called Streamlit. That and all comes from a company which is funded. So in that case, what you can do is you can either go in as a consultant, or anyways you have to create a rapport with them. Without that, it's not going to happen. Once you have the rapport, you can kind of strike out a deal saying, you would need some kind of sponsorship to move forward. Uh, what are some beginner friendly open source project that a beginner can start with? Okay, I don't know what language do you want, but any open source project that has a good community is beginner friendly. For example, in GitHub, you can, if I have it open, yeah, so if you, in any GitHub project, you can go and look for good first issues. If there is a good first issue, that itself is a project which supports newbies. So for any newbies, go for good first issues that will lay the ground, that will introduce you to the stack and all that. So it doesn't matter what the project is. Any project that has the credibility, that has the time to mark issues as good first issues, and they have a care for you. They will take you in and groom you through the process. JavaScript, preferably dev.to, is perfect. Dev.to is created using React on the front end and Ruby in the back end. You can pretty much contribute to the front end issues. And question from YouTube: how to do Git contribution? I'm not sure what is Git contribution in Linux. What do they mean by Git contribution in Linux? I'm not sure. Okay. In presentation, there was a pick fork clone comment PR cycle slide. Can you please show it now on live? How to do it? Because I'm always confused how to proceed after forking. This was the main reason I could not contribute to Hacktoberfest after signing up. Okay. Okay. So I can't fork my own project. What project can we fork? Okay, I can. This is a big project. Okay, why not? So let's fork this. This is dev.to. I'm going to fork it. I'm going to fork it to my account. So the forking happens. Forking is nothing but it's creating a copy into your own personal repositories. So once you have forked it, the URL is no longer practicaldev.to, it's bhavaniravi.to. So once that is done, you can clone it. Git clone. So I'm not cloning it from the practical dev, I'm cloning it from Bhavani Ravi. Then I would dev.to. Okay, so now we have the project in. I'm going to open that in a code editor. So this is my VS Code. So now you have your code in here. Now you can pretty much go change anything here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a branch within my Bhavani Ravi thingy, git checkout demo. Okay. And okay, sorry, it's a new branch. So checkout -b demo. And I'm in the demo branch and I'm going to change something very simple. Like for example, I'll add a few more spaces in README file or something. Okay. I'll add a few more spaces over here just to show you. And what I'll do is git add, we have changed README file, right? So git add that, git commit -m demo changes. I'm not going to push this to dev.to, so you don't have to worry about what I'm going to do with this. So I'm going to push this to the demo branch. And from demo branch, I'm going to give a pull request to the master branch. And I'll show you that in a minute. So this gives you the pull request URL. So you can either do that or you can go here. You could see, demo branch has been pushed. So you can do a comparison and do a pull request. Right? So here they would have a predefined template or what should be given for each pull request. Okay, so this is the main repository, the practicaldev.to's repository, and from its master, and I am pushing it from my repo to from demo branch. From demo branch, I'm pushing it to the main master branch. So once you create the pull request, it would look something like this. It would look something like this, and people would have given you comments and you would have merged new changes and all of that. So this is pretty much the process. Hope that have answered your question. Yes, pull request is similar to merge request. Any open source for Twitter live streaming using NLP to perform? Okay, I'm not sure if I don't have a project name right out of my head, but there should be someone's. It should be someone's side project, so you can open source for Twitter live streaming using NLP. Okay, what do you mean by Twitter live streaming for NLP? Follow-up question: can we directly edit in GitHub immediately after cloning? Yes, you can do that. Directly editing it in GitHub, but each file change is a new commit. So it's not advisable to edit directly in GitHub unless the changes are very, very minimal. You will have more control when you do it in your code editor. How to build a community by open sourcing, how to market my open source project. Uh, I am not equipped to answer this question because I haven't built a community. So one thing I can say is to have a community, you need to have a lot of people using it, and to have a lot of people using it, you kind of have to market your project. You can look for the problem, specific problem that you are trying to solve, and make the problem open source and get a lot of people contributing to it. Once you have the user base, and to get the user base, the best thing you could do is write blog post on how you solve the problem using this particular open source project. And there will be a lot of Stack Overflow questions having the similar problem. There will be Quora questions. Uh, you can go there and promote your project. You can promote the project by proposing the solution, not by selling it. So open source, to create the user base, look for the problem. Once you solve the problem, create blog posts slash uh, answer the questions. And once you have the user base, create a forum for them to come back and contribute. And that's how you build the community. Is pull request similar to merge request? Yes, the GitLab has merge request term and GitHub uses pull request. It, okay, pull request to a master branch means you are pushing things to an actual code base. Master branch is like the end result, the final thing that everybody is going to see. So master, if you get, ultimately you would want to merge things to the master branch, but you can also merge across different branches, and nobody's going to stop you from doing it. But merging it to a master means that your code is going to be live for so many people. Okay, I'm not sure. Is pull request similar to merge request? Because in GitLab it's called merge request. In GitHub it's pull request. So I think pretty much the term is different in the two platforms if you're coming from there. Any other questions? Can we unmute all of them so that they can bomb the questions to me? They don't. I'm not sure. Like in Pandas, it was to the master branch, and every other project I have seen so far is to the master branch. Like, so I'm not sure why would they do it. Can you give a short summary of open source contribution? You might have to be. Isn't that the what? Isn't that the whole presentation is about? What are you expecting exactly, Nikhil? Okay, you joined 2 minutes late. So I have just one slide to show you then. So pick any project, any open source project that you're using currently, and start as a user, be the critic, find some faults, say something is not working. Why is it not working this way? Why is it not working the other way? If you can find this problem, raise issues in GitHub. And once you raise the issues, you can propose a fix and you can go ahead and fix them. If it is approved, then you can kind of go and merge it to the main branch, master branch. And once it's merged to the master branch, you will have your Eureka moment because your code is going to be used by so many people. So that is my simple framework. I think the session is recorded. You can look at it later. Version change or command change in one of the Python libraries. Okay, good question. So most of these, for example, Pandas has a mailing list, if I'm not wrong. So I think Pandas, I am subscribed to that. Yeah, so Pandas has a mailing list. You can subscribe to this. So any changes to Pandas will come here. And you will hear directly from people like if you have, there is also a Python mailing list. So you will directly hear from people like Gudio himself, right? So I'll show you something. I am subscribed to Python Dev and Python Ideas. So people here are core contributors to Python themselves. So you get to meet all these people and you will also get your information. Is there any, okay. Um, I'm not sure about specific projects, but everybody has an open source machine learning project, but awesome machine learning. I don't know if you know about this. There is this awesome machine learning project in GitHub, which points you to a variety of machine learning projects out there. So it's a tutorial slash project slash, getting started thing. It will have everything. So there are like so many resources in this, and you can play around, like look through this and find what's working for you and what's not. And this is not just for machine learning. You can say awesome DevOps, and you will have an awesome DevOps thingy. You can say awesome front end, and there will be an awesome front end list. So awesome is the keyword, and you can do pretty much anything. Awesome SRE is site reliability engineering. There is a thing for that. You can contribute to these awesome lists as well. If you find a cool resource that you want people to share with, you can do that as well. So I can still take questions. Okay, what if you get 5 best open source platforms for ML? This is becoming a interview right now. 5 best open source platforms. Okay, Jupyter Notebook. I'm not sure. Okay, we can't do open source without pandas. So pandas is going to be there. What do you mean by platform exactly? Google Colab is open source. What if we get What if we get stuck in between? When you're actually working on it, what you can do is you can go back to your issue and post your partial work. So how much you have got through, and tell them exactly where you're stuck. You can say, in this module, in this line, I'm trying to do this, but I don't quite understand the code. Can you help me with this? Reaching out for help is the best way to move forward if you're stuck. You can also push something called a work in progress. So I have something here which is a work in progress, but I couldn't continue with that, so it was dropped. But So while you're working on it, if you got stuck or if you want to work on it later, but you want an understanding of what's going on, so you can put it as a work in progress thingy, and that would let people to look through it and give comments on top of that. Okay, I still don't have an answer for 5 best open source platform. What do you mean by platforms exactly? Somewhere where you can learn or somewhere where you can contribute? Okay, if we don't have any more questions, okay. Um, I haven't been a part of any as such. There is something for Microsoft which so many people is talking about. Sorry, not Microsoft. Firefox open source. So this is a great open source community, and there is an other community called. So this is one Mozilla developer Mozilla thingy, and there is another one called Flaws. So this is an free open source software foundation. So this is another open source community, and pretty much Google it. These are the top two from my mind. And most Python communities support open source, but they are not something that would help you to, push to open source. And Pandas has this Pandas dev sprints, which happens online. So, and at PyCons. So you can contact one of the Pandas people and say, you want to contribute, but you're scared. They'll put you in one of those online dev sprints, which I was a part of some time back. And you can start with little projects like contributing to their website or to their documentation, something of that sort. This usually happens in person, but there is also an online version happening undercover. MySQL is open source. Does okay? So if you know that Python is an open source software, which means so many people are contributing to it, and thereby formed a community of the creators and the users of Python. So there are so many people who are creating Python, and there are so many people who are there are so many people who are using Python. So Python is a conference which brings all of these people together and talks about Python. So open source directly does not have anything to do with Python because Python is open source. Python is kind of related to that. MySQL is an open source platform, yes. So if you go and look at MySQL GitHub, I don't know whether they have, so not all the open source projects are on GitHub. So some people use Bitbucket, some people would use uh, GitLab. It's up to them. So I think this is the MySQL code base, but I'm not sure. And not all of the people will use GitHub issues. Some people might use Jira. And MongoDB is an open source project again. So you can go and say MongoDB GitHub. So Mongo is another open source project written in JavaScript, I guess. So if you are looking for contribution of this sort, you can do that too. Any good sources to learn full stack web development? Okay, I'm not sure exactly if there is no license, what happens. I might have to check that and let you know. Uh, yeah, I don't know about the license thingy. and good sources to learn full stack web development. So I use this platform called roadmaps.sh. So I'm not sure whether they don't have a full stack yet. So it's up and coming. So they are going to have this. This is another open source project which you can contribute to. Right now they have things for front end, back end, and DevOps, and it looks something like this. So it will give you a roadmap on how to go about things, and it also has resources for you to check out. So this is something I have used and it has worked for me. And I've done the backend thingy last year. I'm going to do the DevOps this year. And full stack is something that's going to come up this year. And this is again an open source project. You can contribute to it as well. I think there's a GitHub for this. Okay. There used to be a GitHub for this. Roadmaps.sh GitHub. Yeah, so this is the project and you can contribute to this as well. Okay, so do you really understand the working of the whole project? Depends on the size of the project. For example, when I was working for Pandas, I don't understand how merge works or concatenate works or anything of that sort, right? So I only understood the part which I required and whether it is enough for you to move forward. So that is pretty much what you want. Uh, you don't necessarily have to understand the whole working of the project, given that the project is so huge. You don't have to waste your time on that. Choose a particular area where you want to work on, and then backtrack your way to how much of code you want to read. Right? You don't have to start from the main file and read through the entire modules. No, you start from a simple function call. So, okay, here's another thing I can show you. For example, we are in dev.2, right? So let's go to, this is a Ruby slash React code, but I'm taking the privilege. So if you go to public, there are certain things. If there are things inside app. So what I'm looking for is my profile page. So what I'm going to do is doing a full thing search, and I'm going to look for profile page. Or what I can do even better is I can go to dev.2 and look at what this page is called. It's a settings page. Now I can go to dashboard and I can go to the profile page and say, okay, and I'll go to inspect element. Okay, every time I press one of these, let's see where that thing goes. Base data, analytics. I think we'll go for dashboard first. So we look for slash dashboard and we'll look only inside star.js files. So we could see some of those functions out here. So from here, you can backtrack to, what is being called initialize dashboard sort. So we can backtrack, then we can look for this function, how it's getting called and all that. So we can start at one place like slash dashboard and you can work your way back into the rest of the things. So you need to play around with code and use find in your code base. So that will get you somewhere. Have you participated in GSOC? Unfortunately, no, and I'm no longer a student, so that's going to be a dream that never got accomplished. And I never got introduced to GSOC when I was a student, so no. But there are people who can help you with it. So you need to find those people on LinkedIn, and if you reach out to them, they would probably help you with that. What is Git Bash? I think Git Bash started as a Git terminal for Windows. Haven't used it in a long time. So it's pretty much a Git terminal for Windows. So previously Windows didn't have Linux subsystem. So the only way for you to easily do the Git operations in your like terminal is to use Git bash. So if you are using Windows, I think it's no longer a problem. Okay. I think it's all almost well. So we can take last two questions if you have any, and then we can move forward. Any more questions? Last two. Okay. So the question was, I am an experienced Angular developer. Angular is an open source project, but I still don't know how to install the core open source framework and run it in local. Is there a docs? So for you to answer that question, every open source project has a contributor guideline. So this is what I was talking about, GitHub, Angular. I don't know where they host their Angular project, but let's just, since GitHub is the easier route, I am going to, so yes, they do have an Angular repository, and their thing doesn't have anything. So here, if you want to file a bug or contribute some code, you have to go for contributing guidelines. So any project you are looking at, look for this contributing guidelines. So it is mostly this contributing.md file, but since they have given it here, I'm going to go right here. It's again going to your contributing.md file. This file is going to be there in any open source project, be it pandas or dev.to. This will give you the code of conduct, how to raise issues, how to do a feature fix, what are the submission guidelines, and all those things. How to clone, how to merge, how to run the test, and all that. Right? So you can pretty much follow this and get your program running in your local machine. So if you still have problems, that's when you have to raise an issue and ask them for their help, right? So contributing.md is the file that you have to go to for any open source project. Any open source CI/CD platform? No, I haven't came across any. I've used Jenkins, but I haven't. Jenkins is open source, yes. That you have come across, is Jenkins open source? Okay, Jenkins is leading the whole arena. I'm not sure if Jenkins is better than Travis because I've used only those two. And I also used Azure pipelines. That's also pretty good compared to Jenkins, but Jenkins is out of the box. So okay, Python enthusiasts are called Pythonistas. What are open source enthusiasts called? I'm not sure. I think I can Google all that and give you answers, but I'm not going to do that for this question. I think they're called open source enthusiasts. You could do that. Okay, if you have any more questions, I think it's time and we have to close this. If you have any more questions, and if you want to start contributing to open source, the path is not going to be easy. So it's going to be tough and it's going to be wonderful. So keep your passion, patience. You need a lot of patience and keep at it. Don't lose hope. And if you are stuck at any issues, you can reach out to me on Twitter at Geeky Bhavani, or you can go to my website, bhavaniravi.com, and you will find all my online links. And you can ping me in any of those with a good question, and I'll answer you there. Okay. Thank you all for your time. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. And let's all thank GUVI for giving us this wonderful platform to talk to you guys. Right? Big cheer up for them. And I am done if GUVI has something else to say.
Hi all, this is Harun representing GUVI. Thank you, Ms. Bhavani, for this wonderful webinar. I can see that more people are interested in open source contribution. This webinar is very much helpful to them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have much more webinars to come up. Just keep posted, keep following us. So we have more webinars to come up. And thank you, Ms. Bhavani, once again for this webinar.
Thank you, Harun. Thank you for taking so much effort. And thank you, all of you, for joining. Please don't lose hope because it's a hard journey. We all know that. And if you are stuck, reach out for help. Thank you so much.